It's July 8th, the regular meeting of the Personnel Subcommittee. We'll call it to order. Was there any feedback on the minutes from the June 10th meeting? Good. Okay, then they'll stand. Classification work. A construction inspector. Tom, I'll turn that one over to you.
Okay. All right. Well, we have an opening for what used to be called our engineering inspector within our Water Pollution Control Authority, due to one of our employees actually moving on to take a different opportunity. And with that, we saw the ability to modify that job description in a way that would potentially give an opportunity for internal candidates. As it was originally written, it required a 2-year associate's degree, and that was a barrier to a number of our existing employees. The second thing is we have a substantial need in town to have inspection beyond just the WPCA. If you can imagine all of the utility work that's going on in town, they're digging up our roads, which are one of our most expensive assets, and we don't necessarily have a set of eyes out there watching that work being done. A couple years ago, when we had a big influx of utility work, we actually had a consultant engineer doing that work for us. It worked out well, but it was very, very expensive. This new revised position is hopefully going to give us the opportunity to have the person from the WPCA, when time allows, also to cover the routine work of the utility upgrades during the busy summer months. We'll have to come up with a way for the general fund to support the payment that would be out of the WPCA budget, because the WPCA is all paid for by user fees. But again, this is just beginning to give us that flexibility that we need.
What questions, Sean or Wendy, do you have?
Could you just explain what you just said about the budget, Tom?
Sure. The WPCA, and I always smile when I say this, is paid for 100% by user fees. Nothing down at the WPCA is based on taxes. It's all on user fees. So because this person's salary is going to be primarily coming from the WPCA, when this person does work that's not WPCA related, we should come up with a mechanism where the town, through our general fund budget, would reimburse the WPCA on a one-for-one basis for those hours.
So then it doesn't, if I'm understanding correctly, it does include like some cost to the general fund, even though the position itself isn't in a different salary.
Currently, we're budgeted 100% to be able to pay this out of the WPCA, but we wanted to write the job description so that we could allow for that flexibility in the future. So if there was a, let's just say 3-week period where we had extensive utility work and we wanted to bring this person out, we would have to come up with a mechanism from the general fund to reimburse the WPCA. So whether that would be out of the project budget, whether that would at some point be out of fees charged to contractors for roadway excavation permits. I know we've talked about that as a concept in the past as a way of funding this.
Gotcha.
But I think it would be significantly less than what we've paid in the past to do this with on-call consultants.
Gotcha.
Okay.
So to that end,
go ahead.
No, Wendy, go ahead. Finish your thought.
Well, I was just going to say, so for 21, 22, it's not accounted for if this person came on board and they did non-WPCA work. Is that correct?
There's no direct accounting for it. I would think it would be relatively de minimis in terms of the total hours that would be required. But it would be something that we would have to come up with, whether it would be from right now we have a number of staff positions that are open. So whether we would use those funds or whether we would use project funds to pay for those hours. But you're correct. There's no specific line item to pay for that utility oversight work in this current budget.
Tom, if I understand, oh, sorry.
No, go ahead. No,
go ahead.
Go.
If I understand it correctly, though, right now we're using consultants that would come out of the budgeted funds if that work comes up. So we would have an opportunity to lower the cost there. Is that what I'm hearing underneath there?
Currently, we do not have consultants working for us this current construction season, but over the past few construction seasons, we did, and we had actually used the funds associated with the vacant assistant engineer position to cover the bulk of that. And now that we do have an assistant engineer, he's been doing some of this. But again, there are certain projects where we want to have more time with eyes on site making sure that we're getting exactly what we need to get to protect our infrastructure.
So at the end of the day, we're not looking to increase the cost here. We're actually looking to lower the cost because we're going to use a cheaper resource in the long run when these needs come up.
That's correct. The hourly cost would probably be a third or less of what it would be for a consultant.
Okay.
And you're saying we could potentially use savings from other areas in the public, your budget,
Yeah.
rather than create a new expense.
I would think that would certainly be the best model for this upcoming year. And I think as we go forward, if we can start to be develop numbers and be predictive and say, you know what, we're finding that we need to use this person for regular town inspection work 100 hours a year, then we can start to forecast and budget for that.
Okay. Any other questions? I feel like this makes sense to me.
I'm good.
We will have this currently on your agenda for Monday, if you move it forward, but we are awaiting feedback from the union on the proposed changes to the job description. So if we don't get those by then, we might have to hold.
Okay. Is there a motion effective July 8th, 2021 to endorse the revised job description and job title for construction inspector as presented, and further to recommend the proposed changes be forwarded to the full Board of Selectmen for approval?
I'll move that.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you, Tom, for that. Next is a review of the personnel rules updates. So this goes back to our change in form of government a few years ago, and updating personnel rules, purchasing policy, rules of procedure. I appreciated how Attorney Bob DiCrescenzo identified, looks like more than 6 instances where first selectman is listed where it should be town manager, and each of those is spelled out in the packet. Before I opened up for discussion, was there anything that you wanted to add, Melissa or Eric?
No, I mean, it's really housekeeping. As you know, we're doing we're recommending the updates to the ordinances separately, and obviously that's a separate process for the public hearing that you'll have. So a lot of what you see here is really reflecting the change in responsibility of the personnel director from the first selectman to the town manager and the personnel rules and regulations. So this was referred to really just to see if you have any concerns or if you're comfortable with the changes.
Mm-hmm. I didn't see any that raised questions, but I wanted to open it up for discussion in case others did.
I didn't see any that raised questions, but I have a question on one place that I didn't see the change and wanted to question it. And it's on page 6, the A16610 position, A166.00 classification plan.
Getting there. Okay.
Yeah. So I just didn't know why that one stayed for selectmen. I just didn't know if it was a miss or intentional.
It might be a miss.
Yeah, I think that's a miss because the board, I think it might have gotten tripped up because effective upon resolution by the Board of Selectmen, which should stay, but the preparation of should be town manager, I think.
Yeah, so that's just something to clarify and correct.
Good catch, Wendy. Okay. Anything else?
Nope.
Would a motion be helpful here, or just feedback today?
I think a motion would be helpful. I think we've got one in there. Yes, on page 2 of the cover memo, we've got one in there. Just to refer to or recommend the changes be forwarded to the Board of Selectmen.
There it is. Okay. Is there a motion effective July 8th, 2021 to endorse the proposed changes to the personnel rules and regulations to change the first selectman references to town manager where appropriate, and further to recommend that the changes be forwarded to the full Board of Selectmen for approval?
I'll make that with the addendum that Wendy just pointed out, provided it's appropriate.
Great. Yeah, I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. It's eye-opening to see the role of the first selectman under the former form of government. Next is the discussion on non-union compensation. The recommendation from the town manager is to give the unaffiliated staff a 2.35% increase, both in this fiscal year and in the next fiscal year, if this group is comfortable. I want to see Melissa or Eric if there was anything you wanted to add there.
Just as Maria explained at the last meeting, because we had some good settlement data both internally as well as externally, we went ahead and presented the scenarios for fiscal year 22 and 23, and then obviously that's up to you to decide whether or not you want to try to make a recommendation for both years or just one. But that's sort of the rationale behind presenting it, is that we have settlements with some of our internal groups as well as the statewide data that we follow.
And Eric, Wendy and I talked about this last time, and we just wanted to make sure you had seen it and had a chance to opine before we voted on it. Wendy, I think I'm correct in that you and I both felt that 1 year was appropriate. And while we respect that, union contracts are multi-year, non-union members are annual like the rest of us, and that we've not gone down the road of giving increases in out years. Not that I disagree with the number, but again, as we've all seen, the world can change for the good or the challenging, right? And that might be the number next year, and it might not be. So just reserving the right to review that in the future.
Yeah, that's a good memory. I also wanted to just tell Eric some of the conversation that we talked about was I actually raised, is it what guarantees it's a guaranteed increase with a satisfactory performance appraisal rather than really a merit base. So not that anybody's not incented to do their job, but it to do the 1 year gives more incentive to meet the goals for next year. So I just wanted to say that was my only concern with, everybody gets a raise unless you have an unsatisfactory performance appraisal. But if you have a great one, you're going to get the same increase as the satisfactory, unlike corporate, I guess.
I don't know if this was discussed last time, but I know in the past, this group has opted to give Maria a pool of money to essentially give, different raises based on performance if she wanted to. But in the past, it's always been an equal percentage. I don't know if that had come up.
I mean, it didn't, but you're right, Eric. We've talked about that. And that was what I think we recommended to the prior first select woman as well, is you get a 2.35% pool, and you as the chief personnel officer have the right to allocate that how you see fit. But I think the challenge has been, Wendy's right, would love to see a merit-based system, but I don't think we have one in place at this point.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I'm good with the amount. It makes sense based on the benchmarking and also the 1 year.
Yep, I agree.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah, thanks for holding it for me.
Yep.
Is there a motion to recommend to the full Board of Selectmen a 2.35% general wage increase for unaffiliated staff July 1, 2021, pending a satisfactory yearly performance evaluation, and that the salary ranges for those classifications be adjusted, and also to have the proposed general wage increase forwarded to the full Board of Selectmen?
I'll move that just with the clear intent, Melissa, that it's retroactive to July 1, obviously. So we don't need another motion later on to do retroactive.
And I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. And the final item is feedback on the town manager's goals. Was there any, obviously Maria is not here. Melissa, is there any context you wanted to add before I open up for discussion?
No, I don't think so. I think she just wanted you all to have an opportunity, as you normally do, to review her draft goals before, forwarding them onto the full board. So hopefully everyone have a chance to review. But
okay. I personally had just a few notes under special projects in particular. Let's start with Wendy. Was there anything in particular that jumped out to you?
In general, or just under special projects?
Well, no, let me back up. Would it be helpful, or just sharing our notes?
I missed that for some reason. I don't know if it was on my end.
Would it be helpful if we take it section by section, so starting with human resources?
Yeah,
All
that'd
right,
be great.
good. What feedback do you have on human resources / labor relations?
I only had one comment. It's not really a change, but it seemed to focus mostly on, again, on the collective bargaining, negotiating, and less on professional and staff development of the town. You know, the department heads, division heads, and stuff like that. So as a manager, that's normally one of your top goals, right? Is your staff. And that was the only thing that stood out to me. Not that I would change anything. I just wanted to point that out to you guys. That's how I kind of looked at it. You know, medium is the leadership retreat and professional development. I just didn't know if any of those should be high.
I think they're ranked. I agree with you in the quote unquote normal space, but you know, the challenge here is that our biggest cost is that first item, right? In a municipality with the collective bargain agreements. So I think that's the rationale for why we've had this as the highest priority, because it does warrant the most attention, the most work with council. Obviously, you know, Eric and Melissa from this call working hard on that. So, and then what are there, 12 folks that qualify under the professional development side, Melissa and Eric?
Yeah, on the non-union side.
On the non-union side, yeah.
Okay.
So I agree with you, but then when you look at the numbers and again the cost, it's a challenge, and yeah.
Okay. Wanted to hear some rationale to.
I believe that's why we've done it the way it is again because those labor agreements, as you know, we've all seen over our different tenures, it's intense, from the job descriptions, the back and forth, the feedback, the hearings. I mean, it's a lot of work.
Okay. All right.
Okay. Any feedback under economic development?
My only was initially, and that I kept reading, was do we put some linked to working with the ARPA funds to make sure that it's driving the economic recovery in there, or is it better placed under the special projects? I don't know if that's where you were going to go, Eric, but
yeah, I don't see a downside in it being mentioned in both places. Is that what you're thinking, Sean?
I mean, just that support business recovery, just to be clear, includes, the execution and usage of those funds where appropriate. Obviously, working with us, but so maybe go ahead, Wendy.
Well, I was just going to say I only have overall feelings on these. I don't have specifics. So the economic development just really points to working with these that support and, the business community and recovery, but it doesn't say anything about really pushing general economic development in town, with Main Street or something like that. It was more just around recovery and then working with the EDC. So I didn't know if we wanted anything more meaty, I guess, for, just economic development in general.
So do we add a statement in that second sentence? So work collaboratively and drive new development or economic development opportunities with the folks that are listed? To that point, Wendy?
Yeah, just so that it's not just like reactive almost, you know what I'm saying? And recovery due to the pandemic, it could be more proactive of a statement.
Yeah.
That's where I'm going.
Yeah, it makes sense.
So drive economic development opportunities, where appropriate and work collaboratively with. I like the word drive, right?
Yeah.
I think that meets the need. I also just, one of my feedbacks later on is around I don't think there was a specific mention of the Spirit Council under some of the equity related activities. So whereas we call out the EDC, I think there may be an opportunity later to call out that supporting the Spirit Council, but we'll get there.
That's fair.
Anything else under economic development? Okay. Financial management.
Yeah. The
Go ahead.
ARPA's in here, but
It is. And it's on a high.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I think that's appropriate.
I don't know if this is I don't know if this is a goal. Again, it might be more of an, like an attribute later, but you know how Rob on the Board of Finance had proposed, a capital committee to just continually look at stuff throughout the year, not just from February through March.
Mhm.
And I was thinking something in the financial management to, proactively share, operating and capital budget information with the Board of Selectmen throughout the year, not just in that period.
I mean, we do get a monthly, or is it either monthly or quarterly update from the finance director, which I think originally that was supposed to be the transparency.
Okay.
And I'm struggling, and maybe Melissa, some advice here is, the town manager is our conduit for information, but the finance director really owns that path, right? The capital.
Right. Right. So are you talking about having, well, like you said, you receive the quarterly updates from Amy. I mean, is there something, Wendy, that you're talking about budget wise that you would like to see off cycle, or?
So I'm thinking of, like all the capital projects and details around those. So for example, the Meadowood project, right? There was multiple grants happening throughout the year or changes. We did hear about them. I'm not sure, if we got all the details as they happened, or did we get them bundled up, when the time came. And I think that was something that again, I'm not saying we did it wrong, but the Board of Finance pushing for a capital review, if there was more information provided for the capital, projects as we had it and more detail throughout the year. Again, this could be more of a, quantifiable underperformance as opposed to a goal.
Yeah.
So I guess I could just leave it.
I hear what you're saying, Wendy. I'm still struggling. I agree with Chairman Pomeroy's ask. It's just, when I step back and look at, the budgets, the capital is, it's not a just-in-time delivery, but, 6 months in advance, 9 months in advance is helpful. But until we get, into February and March, it doesn't get solidified often. Yeah. And we can move up numbers, et cetera, but, things do change, especially on the big projects as we see. And, that was the original intent of the 6-year plan. And I know, we moved things around and, folks outside of our group don't quite understand that when you take things off the list, that doesn't mean they're dead. It just means that they're not there and we can put them back on anytime. Yeah. And that's, again, and we have done that. Melissa, almost every year, right, a new capital item comes up that wasn't necessarily on the 6-year plan. And it doesn't mean there was poor planning. It means that we're running a municipality and there's a lot of things that change.
Okay.
So, I agree with Rob, though, and I agree with what you're getting at. I'm just struggling with what more certainty. I think we should have the conversation with the Board of Finance. Absolutely. I think we should include finance director, town manager, and everybody. But I'm not sure we're going to get an agreed capital package that's going to be exactly a rubber stamp come the next April.
I think it's the timing of it. It's already one day, it's very prescribed in the charter in terms of time frame, and obviously nothing that doesn't preclude us from starting earlier or what have you. But I think to your point, Sean, it's all about timing, because when do we have the information? How do we pull it together and have it be relevant at the time that the budget's presented and the budget process? So I think that's just probably the philosophical discussion that we're talking about.
So I think listening, I think what I would just hold back is use thoughts and things like that for feedback when we actually do the review. Yeah. Rather than make it a goal.
That's fair. But I don't, to your point though, we shouldn't let that one go. I think we need to keep working with the Board of Finance to figure that one out.
Yeah.
Was there other feedback under financial management? Okay. Under special projects, I was looking at the second bullet, support the board's vision for a diverse and inclusive community through special projects, initiatives, and policies. I wanted to see what you would think about actually sort of taking that out and adding language directly from the resolution we passed from the Spirit Council to say work to become an equity and justice oriented organization by continuing to identify specific activities and policies to enhance diversity and to ensure anti-racism principles across our leadership, staffing, and contracting.
So I think
yeah.
Oh,
Go ahead.
sorry, Wendy. It needs to go beyond. It needs to go beyond racism. There. That would be my only feedback. Is yes, obviously that's important, but the efforts for the we've undertaken for the LGBTQ community and other folks. Again, there's a lot of discussion and frustration and fear right now on the word equity versus equality and critical race theory and all, and I think we need to be clear that there's no partisan agenda in these statements, neither left nor right. We want to be a good employer. We want to take care of our staff and our residents and make sure that everybody feels at home here, right? Is the basis of it. And it's not to drive anybody's particular agenda. And, again, all the crap we read on CNN and Fox News, that's not what this is about. Right.
What if we support the board's vision for a diverse and inclusive community? What if we added the word "and workforce"?
Yeah, I think that's appropriate. And I think this very much needs to be high. I just, at the risk of, it's like when you thank people, right? You leave something out and then.
Right. Okay. And I also wanted to see if it would be appropriate to add reference to supporting the, working collaboratively or supporting the work of the Spirit Council in that statement.
Yeah.
Well, I was just going to say it's more than, I mean, that's the Spirit Council's goal, but isn't it more than just the Spirit Council that's working for a diverse and inclusive community as far as zoning, planning? They should be also. Do we want to just say more generally the town committees, to support the vision and the town committees that, focus? I don't know. I don't want to just limit it to Spirit. I mean, I know that's their main goal, but anybody else could be doing the same initiatives, like affordable housing, things like that.
I agree, but because those are independent elected officials, we have less ability to drive their agendas. Obviously Maria can work with staff. Mm-hmm. So maybe it's a reference to that in terms of supports the board's vision for a diverse and inclusive community through special projects, initiative, workforce, and policies. As Eric mentioned, continue to support the work of department heads with their councils or with their commissions and the Spirit Council to achieve this mission or something like that. Because it's really, she has the control over the department heads, right? And kind of the messaging there, and control's the wrong word, has the influence with the department heads, and they can then influence their commissions. Does that kind of I know it doesn't go all the way for what you're looking for, but.
Yeah, I just felt like it shouldn't, I agree the Spirit Council is the main driver of all this, but there's other, I don't want to limit it to them. That's really what I'm trying to say, Eric. So if we include it, we should also include any other, places that would need support for these initiatives.
Well, supporting the work of the Spirit Council and related boards and organizations engaged in this work or something along those lines.
Yeah, like I was fine with it the way as general as it is, but I'm good with narrowing it down or, if Sean has to leave.
Sorry, guys, I do have to depart. I'm okay with the sentiment there. And again, overall, I think these goals and align with what we've talked about in the last fall with the Board of Selectmen. So,
Yeah.
but I apologize. I have to depart. Thanks, guys.
Have a good day, Sean.
Sean?
You too.
Bye.
Bye.
The only other question I had is that we call out the work, the mark with EDC, but we don't call out the data collection work with Spirit. I guess I would just say I would rather call them both out or call neither of them out. That's just my feedback.
All right, so you're saying for economic development, you would not call out the EDC?
No, I appreciate that we do call out the EDC, but then in the third bullet under economic development, working with the EDC to complete marketing project update and refresh. That's a project EDC is doing, whereas we're not calling out the project the Spirit Council is doing, which is, a similar amount of money.
Okay. So would you put that as a separate project? Is that what you're saying?
I think I would propose under special projects to add that as a separate bullet to support the data collection effort.
Yeah, that's fine. I'm okay with that. Because it is, like you're saying, it's a project that, what would you put that as, a medium?
Yeah.
Okay. I could get around
and
that.
I'm good with pollinator pathway initiatives being low, but in comparison to everything else, but I do want to just say for the record that I think that this work is really critical for the health of our planet. And it's a high priority for me, but I'm okay keeping it low.
I'm just learning about the pollinator pathway.
Just to get started, Wendy, it's
is it eye-opening?
Eye-opening and disturbing.
Yeah, great. After we feel like we've been living in Florida for the last 5 days.
Yeah.
Okay.
Any other observations under special projects, Wendy?
I did have one. So the marijuana municipal impact of state legislation for marijuana. I don't know. I feel like a medium that could easily become a high in the next year. No pun intended, because we don't know what's, if we're going to have opportunities that we need to react to more quickly based on, what the state passes down, whether the licensing for, what do you call them, dispensaries comes up quicker, sooner than later. If we have to go through zoning sooner than later, if we have to do a referendum sooner than later, sure. That's just my gut feeling that that's going to spiral sooner than later. And
yeah, my thought, I don't disagree. My thought is, based on what we know right now, we could keep it as medium. There are things that the town is going to focus on in the coming year that aren't on here that we can't even.
True.
So I think we're obviously, I have confidence that Maria will react appropriately if things start getting pushed down.
Yeah, I guess that's totally true. It's just like, you kind of know that that's going to be bubbling up soon. So.
Yeah, I understand.
Okay. I'm fine with that.
Okay.
Melissa? I want to make sure we captured your edit to the second item under special projects properly. So we're going to add supports the board's vision for a diverse and inclusive community and workforce.
Yeah.
Okay, so that was the change there. But what are we saying about Spirit and the work of the Spirit Council and others who maybe?
So if we're adding another bullet to call out their data collection work, what if we added a bullet that just said supporting the work of the Spirit Council, including their work around data collection project? What do you think, Wendy?
I don't want to sound, I'm not anti-Spirit Council. I mean, I obviously think it's a great thing. I always feel like what other committees aren't we focusing on? Or maybe there aren't any that I guess that is a pretty much a top critical issue. So I understand calling out the data project, right? But if we're is there any committee we're not saying we're not supporting, or we have to call out we're supporting separately, right? So saying we're supporting the data, their data collection efforts project, I think is definitely a line item. In that support the board's vision for the diverse and inclusive community through special project and workforce also covers Spirit Council, but that's your call.
I understand what you're saying because there are other town committees that are called out in here.
Right.
I do think that it signifies a level of importance, the way we see it and calling it out. But also what makes EDC and Spirit different is that we've actually given them money to do specific projects.
Right.
Most town committees don't have any kind of a budget. And I guess that's, if I were to try to make a justification, that's the justification I would use.
Okay. Okay. I guess I'm okay with that. And we could see like, right, Maria's going to have to look at these two to, I guess if she has any feedback on them, is that true? And then the board's going to look at
I
it
would
too.
want to know if she had concerns about this.
No, she
thing.
Yeah. No, I guess I'm okay with that.
Okay.
So we can add those changes that we've discussed. And then I think we need a motion for to recommend approval by the full board. If you want to discuss on Monday.
Okay. Is there a motion effective July 8th, 2021 to recommend the draft town manager goals be forwarded to the Board of Selectmen with the changes we discussed?
I'll move that.
Well, I guess I'll second it.
I was going to say we can play ping pong here.
Melissa, why are you seconding the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. All right. Anything else before we adjourn? I think that's everything.
Nope. Just tell Tom, Roy, I hear trucks outside on my street. Like, our DPW is hard at work.
Excellent.
Oh, there he is.
All right. Good stuff. Okay. Motion to adjourn?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Thanks, everyone.
Have a good day.
See you guys.
Bye.